Hello, I'm Nancy Maurer, a food professional. There are many wonderful convenience products on the market today, like Swedish pancake mix, blueberry muffin mix, and even scone mix. There are also many wonderful products that are already baked for you to buy, like banana bread and orange muffins. But today I'm going to show you how to make your own quick bread. Quick breads use baking powder or baking soda to make the batter rise, and they take a lot less time to bake than a yeast bread recipe. There are two categories of quick breads: dough, which is firm and can be cut, like biscuits, and batter, which is pourable or soft, like drop biscuits. Measuring your ingredients accurately is very important because baking is like a chemical experiment. Even a few drops of an extra ingredient can make the difference between success and failure. Let's talk about how to measure ingredients. Ingredients like flour and sugar, or even powdered sugar, need to be measured into a dry measuring cup, and they need to be filled to overflowing. Then we're going to take a straight edge, like a spatula or a knife, and scrape off the excess to get an accurate amount. Liquid ingredients such as milk or oil or water need to be measured into a liquid measuring cup. They also need to be checked at eye level to make sure you have the right amount. Brown sugar is measured differently than white sugar or powdered sugar. We use a dry measuring cup and scoop the brown sugar into the cup and pat it with your hands until it's firm. Brown sugar actually holds its shape when it's popped out of the cup. Shortening needs to be scooped into a dry measuring cup using a spatula and then leveled with a straight edge. Butter sticks are always 1/2 cup, and I know that because on the back of the stick are the measurements. You can use a knife to cut off as much as you need. Other ingredients such as salt, baking soda, baking powder, and flavorings need to be measured using measuring spoons. You dip the spoon into what you need to measure and level it off with a straight edge to get the accurate amount. The other things we need to remember when doing our little baking chemical experiment is to read the recipe all the way through before you start baking. Make sure you know all the steps, have all your ingredients out on the counter and ready to be measured, and make sure you follow the baking instructions. Now let's get started making one of my personal favorite quick breads, banana bread. Got all my ingredients measured out and ready to go. I'm going to mix my dry ingredients in a large bowl, the flour, the salt, and the baking powder. I'm going to stir it to mix it. Then I'm going to mix the sugar with the shortening. I'm going to cream the shortening and sugar together with an electric mixer until it's well blended and smooth. Now we're ready to add our next ingredient, bananas. I've got 2 of them and I made sure they're very ripe. This is important to make your banana bread smooth and creamy. I'm also going to add my eggs at the same time. I'm going to mix this at medium speed until well blended. Now I'm going to gradually add my flour to this mixture. It's important at this point to scrape down the sides of the bowl with a rubber spatula. To make sure I get all the flour into the mixture. I only want to mix this until it's just blended. It looks like I have a nice batter. Now I'm going to bake the banana bread in a bread pan that's been sprayed with non-stick cooking spray. Use a rubber spatula to get all the banana bread mixture. I'm going to pour it into the prepared pan. I'm going to bake it at 350 degrees, the lower third of the oven. Bake it in the oven for 40 to 50 minutes and you'll have a delicious, quick treat. Up next, we're going to make blueberry muffins. Blueberries are delicious as well as nutritious. And the great thing about blueberries is you don't have to always use fresh. There's always frozen. Let's get started making our muffins. First, we're going to mix all our dry ingredients together. The flour, the baking powder, the sugar, and the salt. I'm going to stir these ingredients together. Then in another bowl, I'm going to mix all my wet ingredients. I'm going to mix my eggs with my butter. Then I'm going to add my milk. Once that's mixed, I'm going to make a pocket or a well in my dry ingredients to pour the liquid ingredients into. It's extremely important not to overmix blueberry muffins. It's a batter, and if you overmix it, when you bake it, it gets tunnels and peaks. I'm going to gently mix until everything is just coated. Once I have all the ingredients mixed together, I'm going to gently fold in my blueberries. I want to be careful still not to overmix. I'm just going to gently use a folding technique to incorporate the blueberries into the batter. Now we're ready to bake. There are many different sizes and shapes of muffin pans that are really fun. We have Texas-sized muffins, we have heart-shaped muffins, we have mini muffins, and just regular-sized muffins. Today we're just going to use the regular size. Now you can either line the muffin pans with paper, or you can spray them with a cooking spray. Today we're going to use paper. Now we're going to use a spoon to scoop the batter into the pan. We're going to fill our muffins 2/3 full. Any more than that, they could bake over the top. Some people like to add chopped nuts to their blueberry muffins. And a great substitute for blueberries would be dried cranberries. A good alternative to doing blueberry muffins would also be to use the same batter for a coffee cake. You just spray a 9x9 baking pan with nonstick cooking spray, and then pour the batter into this pan and bake it, and you'd have a wonderful coffee cake. Now we're ready to bake. We're going to bake these in a 350-degree oven on the lower third for 15 to 20 minutes. This next recipe, Popovers, is really fun. A lot of restaurants serve these to their guests. We're going to mix all our ingredients in a blender today. We're going to start with the liquid ingredients. First the eggs, then the milk. Now we're going to mix these together until they're just blended. Now we're going to add our dry ingredients. The flour and salt. We're going to blend this again until it's just mixed. That looks great. Now we're going to pour our batter into large muffin tins, or you could actually use a popover pan if you have one. I had to preheat my muffin tins in an oven 450 degrees before I pour the batter into them for 5 minutes. Now we're going to add melted butter to our popover batter. We're just going to put that back on and mix that in for a second. That should be good. Now we're going to pour the batter into our hot muffin pans. We're going to fill it 3/4 full. And then we're going to put it back in the oven and bake it again at 450 degrees for 15 minutes. Once we've baked them for 15 minutes at 450 degrees. We're going to turn the oven temperature down to 350 degrees and bake them another 20 minutes. It's really important to remember not to open the oven door, no peeking while these are baking or they can fall. It's the eggs and the steam that make popovers rise. Popovers, unlike other quick breads, don't have any baking powder or baking soda. Now let's move on to our next recipe, quick drop biscuits. There are actually two different kinds of biscuits. One biscuit is more of a dough and it's actually rolled out and cut with cutters and then baked. But today we're going to work on a quick drop biscuit, which actually has more liquid in it and is more batter-like. We're going to start by mixing our dry ingredients. We mix the flour, the salt, the sugar, and the baking powder. Now we're going to stir those together to mix them up. And then we're going to mix our liquids, our milk, and sour cream. Now we're going to whisk these together until they're just blended. The next step is a really important one. We're going to cut our shortening into our flour. I'm going to scoop it out with a rubber spatula, making sure I get it all. And you could use a fork for this process, but today I chose to use a pastry blender. I'm going to try to mix or cut the shortening into the flour. Now this process is very important because it helps the dough become flaky and tender. So we're going to try not to overmix. We want to just mix until we have pea-sized pieces of shortening. If you get too much shortening stuck on the pastry blender, just scrape it off with the rubber spatula. Once we've cut all our shortening into the flour, we're going to pour our liquid ingredients into our dry ingredients. We're going to blend them together until just mixed. It's very important to never overmix this dough. It becomes tough and hard. Now we're ready to bake. We're going to place them on a cookie sheet that's been sprayed with non-stick cooking spray. We're going to drop them onto the sheet by rounded spoonfuls. You can use another spoon to help scrape the batter off the spoon if you need to. We're going to bake these biscuits at 450 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. They should be nice and golden brown. Well, we've learned how to make a variety of quick breads that are both quick and delicious instead of having to use convenience products. We have our banana bread, which we test for doneness using a toothpick. We insert it into the center, and if it comes out clean, it means the bread is done. We've made drop biscuits, and we've also made batters such as popovers and blueberry muffins. You can make quick breads in the microwave also, using a special pan like this one for the blueberry muffins. Just keep in mind it's not going to brown, but it's probably just best to reheat your quick breads in the microwave until they're warm for a few seconds. Well, we've created a variety of wonderful quick breads here, but these are just a few of the many. There's pancakes and waffles and scones, and I hope I've inspired you to go home and create your own baking adventure.